Hey, quick message to neurotypical spouses who are married to someone with ASD level 1. You have often wanted your autistic spouse to change, haven't you? You wanted them to be more neurotypical. But has your autistic spouse ever done the same thing to you? Has he or she ever wanted you to be more autistic and exhibit some traits of autism? I don't think so. How do you know whether your ASD spouse had just an adult temper tantrum or a meltdown? Well, if he remembers what he said and did, it was an adult temper tantrum. If he doesn't remember what he said or did, it was a meltdown. Got a question from a neurotypical wife, and she states that my husband has ASD level 1 and he has some emotions blindness or alexithymia. Can he feel love? The answer is yes. It's going to be harder for him to find the words to describe how he feels, and it's going to be easier for people with ASD to show love through actions, in other words, doing things for you. But alexithymia, even though it effectively isolates a person with ASD emotionally, it does not prevent him from feeling and showing love. Did you guys know that all cats have autism? Yeah, all of them, especially these two. That's Watson and Simon up there. Okay, this is another ASD spouse alert. The next time you're home with your wife and she's doing dishes, walk up behind her and massage her shoulders for about 5 or 10 seconds. Yeah, deep tissue massage, right here. Oh yeah, get it done. The only request I have of my neurodiverse couples out there is please don't fight on the same day. In other words, one of you can fight on Sunday, the other one on Monday, then back and forth like that. So as long as one of you is sane, both of you will be okay. Hey guys, this is Mark, and a quick message to men on the autism spectrum. If you have ASD level 1, you're going to have some degree of mind blindness. And sometimes what ends up happening with that is you think you're smarter than everybody else. But other people see that and they go, he thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And that makes you look dumb. Okay? But other people can see that and you don't see that you're not the smartest person. It's like having spaghetti sauce all over your lip here. And you're talking to people, acting like everything's normal. Don't even know what's going on. And other people are looking at you like, this guy doesn't even realize he has spaghetti sauce all over dripping down his chin. And so, if you have ASD level 1, you're going to have some mind blindness. And you may be thinking, and you may have thought for a long time, I'm smarter than anybody else. Other people can see that you think you're smarter than everybody else. And they don't agree. And again, that makes you look dumb. Quick message to the neurotypical wives out there. If you had an emotionally unavailable father or an emotionally abusive father, it's very possible that your ASD level 1 husband is paying for the sins of that father, and the two of you don't even know that that's going on. So one thing that comes up a lot from the NT wife is she thinks her husband has pathological demand avoidance, or PDA. Well, first of all, PDA is not recognized as a disorder. It's not in the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders. And secondarily, even though it looks like he's ignoring or avoiding anything that he perceives as a demand, what's really going on is that when the NT wife demands something and he seems to ignore it or avoid doing it, it's not that he just doesn't give a shit and says, screw you, I'm not interested in meeting your needs. He's not purposely trying to be oppositional or defiant. What's going on here is these, quote, demands, unquote, fall way outside of his special interest. Or he doesn't view it as something that even needs to be done at all. So does it look like he's ignoring or avoiding anything that he perceives as a demand? Yes, it looks like that. But the motive here is not to be purposefully oppositional or defiant or disrespectful or uncaring, selfish, narcissistic, and so on. Another reason for a lack of follow-through is often his anxiety. And so if you are requesting or demanding his participation in something that's going to raise his anxiety, then he's likely to want to avoid that. And that's often manifested in the form of a shutdown. But here again, the motive is not to be dismissive or to reject you you or to be insensitive to your needs. The motive is, in this case, to remove himself from the source of anxiety and decompress. And so if you want your autistic spouse to start paying attention to your demands or requests, and you want him to start following through, then you need to get his buy-in up front. You need to appeal to his logic, and you need to come up with the facts that support why it's a good idea to follow through with this thing that you want him to follow through with. Many adults with ASD do marry and have kids. Marriage often follows a period of ideal courtship. However, the experience of the NT spouse and even the children is quite different compared to what most spouses would experience and expect. Neurotypical spouses often have an awareness early in the marriage that something is not right, but they can't work out what. They often speak of being aware that something, like a piece of a puzzle, is missing. With respect to parenting, parents with ASD may not be aware of or anticipate situations of danger or neglect when caring for a child. They may have trouble reading their child's needs or emotional state and may either respond inappropriately or not at all, leading to the possibility of neglect or mishandling. If you're married to somebody with autism, you're married to somebody who has a disorder. Yes, it's a disorder. It's not a condition or a different way of thinking, okay? If you had a child with a disorder, would you treat that child the same way you do your autistic spouse? Huh? Would you? Psst, come here. So you're a neurotypical wife, married to an autistic husband, and you think that if you tell him how you feel, he'll know what to do in the way of behavior change based on how you feel? Someone with autism who's alexithymic? And you think that's going to work? It's not working, ladies. Not working. Quick message to neurotypical spouses out there. If you're married to someone with autism, think of his meltdowns as the fight part of the fight or flight response, and think of his shutdowns as the flight part of the fight or flight response. In other words, your autistic spouse is trying to protect himself from real or imagined harm. Quick message to spouses with autism. When you have a meltdown, you blow off a lot of pent-up energy, and you can be fine 5 minutes later, but guess what? Your wife and the kids, if they were there too, it takes them 5 days to recover from your meltdown. Okay, so some autistic husbands are so busy engaged in their special interests for extended periods of time, they never take their NT wife on vacation, right?
Right.
So in your estimate, how often should he be taking his wife on vacation? Quarterly, bi-yearly, yearly, or every 2 years?
2.
Every 2 years?
No, every 2 weeks.
Quick message to neurotypical spouses out there. If you were married to, let's say, a husband that was legally blind, would you ever say to him, you know, if you would just try harder and work at it, you'd be able to see better? No, you would not. So if your spouse has mind blindness and emotions blindness, what makes you think that if they tried harder or worked at it, that they would be able to see someday? Okay, quick question to the NT wives out there. When is the last time you did something with your autistic husband that he enjoyed? I said, when was the last time you engaged in an activity with your ASD spouse that he enjoys? Oh, that long ago, huh? Some NTs go, well, yeah, I used to join in when he would do such and such, but it was so boring. And some NT wives go, no, well, there's nothing that he does that he has an interest in that I could actually participate in. Really? You may want to rethink that thing, because I'm guessing that he has something that he enjoys that you could join in on. Hey, quick message to neurotypical wives. If you find that your autistic husband does not want to discuss things with you, especially relationship problems, or if you find that he's actually lying to you, either directly or lying by omission, I'm not saying it's right, but he's doing that because he doesn't trust you. Why doesn't he trust you? Because he's afraid to talk about things or uncover things for fear that it will result in conflict, and conflict raises anxiety. So if you find that he's not cooperating with you, he doesn't want to discuss things with you, he's even lying to you, it's all about anxiety reduction. I'm not saying it's right. but he doesn't trust having conversations with you. What is the number one problem for people with autism spectrum disorder? Anxiety. What is their number one source of anxiety? Trying to relate to people. What's more important to you, being right or keeping the peace? The answer is being right. And so every time you choose being right over keeping the peace, you have officially laid your own trap. What's more important to you? Listening to understand the other person or speaking to be understood? The answer is speaking to be understood. That's more important to you than listening to understand, and when you do that, you have officially laid your own trap again. What's this trap you speak of, Mark? You set up a scenario that results in you feeling frustrated, angry, resentful, and victimized. How does your ASD husband show his love for you? By doing things for you. And the typical NT wife says, well, yeah, I like some of the things that he does for me, but that's not enough. And the ASD husband will say the same thing. Doesn't matter what I do, it's never good enough. And so the NT wife goes through life feeling deprived. The ASD husband goes through life feeling like, I can never make her happy. A quick message to neurodiverse couples. Did you know that the behavior that you point out to your spouse is the behavior that's likely to increase? For example, if you point out the things that they're doing wrong, how they're failing you, how they're falling short, they're likely to increase that behavior despite you. If you point out what they're doing right and what you appreciate, they're likely to increase that behavior to please you. So I got a question from somebody the other day. He wanted to know, how can I become autistic? Because I hear that autistic people are very smart and they've got a lot going for them, you know, like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and so on. Okay, so you want the recipe for autism? First of all, get you a cell phone. Then find something that you are passionate about that you can find on your cell phone, a special interest, you know, like video games, maybe social media and so on. And then you hyper-focus on that. You're on your phone basically all the time. And you hyper-focus on that for extended periods of time to the exclusion of everything else. Give that about 6 months, and you, too, will become autistic. This is why there's such a disconnect between NT wives and autistic husbands during toxic relationship stress, and this is also the way each party attempts to deal with the stress. The NT wife will tend to implode, that can look like depression. The ASD husband will tend to explode, and that can look like rage. The NT wife needs to talk about the problems, wants to share and talk about feelings, prefers a connection during crisis. The autistic husband doesn't want to talk about the problems, doesn't want to share emotions, and prefers a disconnection during crisis. The NT wife will want to associate and seek support, while the ASD husband will want to disassociate and have a meltdown or shutdown. Why is there such a stark difference here between the two? The NT wife is highly developed socially and emotionally. The ASD man, not so much. Hey, are you married to an autistic spouse and they seem emotionally unavailable all the time? That's because they turn their emotions way down. They think emotions get in the way of completing tasks. In fact, their motto might be, remove the emotions and complete the tasks more efficiently. Not that this is the only reason, but I run into this a lot where the main reason is he is afraid he's going to be in trouble. He's not necessarily doing anything wrong per se, according to him. As you say, I'm not cheating. I'm not gambling over here on the side or doing anything profound. But I just got a feeling that if I mention this, what's exactly going on, there's going to be pushback from her, and I just don't need the added conflict. So what you can do with your wife is say, you know what, and I will go ahead and shift gears now and be the truth teller and the truth seeker and be more genuine. I'm going to start telling you some of the things that I hid from you before because I was wanting to just avoid an argument. But I'm only willing to do this if I know, if I don't get punished for telling you the truth. if you want me to be honest with you and not hide these little insignificant things really from you, then I need to feel safe. And I need to know that I'm going to go ahead and divulge the information, but it's not going to result in a shit show. So the question is, this is what you ask your wife, if I'm willing to be honest with you, are you willing not to punish me or use that as a weapon against me? If she found out that you spent money that she didn't think was you should have spent, and she's upset, and she can tell you that she's upset. But then if she turns this into an argument now and wants to let you have it and scold you, no, don't want that. And the first time she does that, you'll just go back to hiding stuff again. It's perfectly acceptable for her to be upset. I'm not saying don't get upset. I'm just saying don't use your truth as an opportunity to be critical, parental, corrective, demeaning, chastising, and so on. So what's the difference between someone with autism and someone with narcissism? Someone with autism looks insensitive and selfish because their social and emotional brain is underdeveloped. Someone with narcissism looks insensitive and selfish because they're insensitive and selfish. Hey, quick message to neurotypical spouses. You think your autistic spouse doesn't have empathy? No, he does. He just doesn't have displayed empathy. It's in there. He just doesn't show it because sometimes emotions are uncomfortable for him. Hey, this is Mark Hutton. Would you like to schedule a one-on-one Zoom call? Okay, it's so simple. Just look under any of my videos in the description area. Click on this Calendar link. Now you see my calendar. Pick your month, your day, anytime that's available. Enter your name and email address. Then you'll get a follow-up email with the Zoom link on the day and time that you picked. And voila, we will talk.